When a woman never calls or texts you first, the instinct most men have is to panic and start overcompensating. They think the solution is to do more, to message more, to call more, to force some sort of reaction out of her, because silence feels uncomfortable. But here's the truth. That exact reaction is what pushes her further away. A woman's attraction doesn't grow when you chase her relentlessly. It grows when she feels a shift, when she senses that your world doesn't revolve around her, and when you create space that forces her to feel your absence. If she never calls or texts you first, the most powerful move you can make is not to chase, but to step back and allow her to experience what it feels like when you're not constantly there filling up the silence. Think about it. Every time you're the one initiating, every time you're the one checking in, every time you're the one sending that "hey" text just to keep things alive, you're training her to believe that she doesn't need to make any effort. You're teaching her that you'll always be there, that she can sit back, and that the connection will survive without her investment. But attraction doesn't work like that. The more one-sided it becomes, the less value she feels in it, and the less urgency she has to reciprocate. By always being the one to reach out, you accidentally strip the relationship of balance, and you take away the very mystery that creates desire. Now, creating space doesn't mean you suddenly disappear in anger or play childish games. It's not about ignoring her or trying to manipulate her. It's about recognizing your own value and refusing to operate from a place of desperation. You understand that constant chasing drains the attraction, and instead, you trust that silence can actually work in your favor. When you step back, she's forced to confront the quiet. She begins to notice that you're not the one flooding her phone anymore, and in that space, curiosity begins to grow. She wonders what you're doing, why you haven't reached out, and whether or not she's losing your attention. That curiosity turns into a spark, and that spark is often what makes her finally take action. This is especially powerful because most men do the opposite. They smother, they suffocate, they don't give her the chance to miss them. Imagine your favorite song. If you played it non-stop every single hour of the day, you'd get sick of it. But when you hear it unexpectedly after some time apart, it hits different, and you appreciate it more. The same principle applies here. If you're always on repeat in her life, your presence loses its impact. But when you create a pause, when you step back and let silence do its work, your presence regains its weight. She feels it more deeply. This move also signals strength. A man who isn't afraid of space is a man who isn't dependent on her for validation. When she notices that you're not begging for her attention, that you're comfortable letting things breathe, she recognizes something rare: emotional control. Most men fold under the pressure of silence. They can't handle not hearing from her, so they crumble into neediness. But the man who can stay centered, calm, and patient is the man who stands out. That's the man she remembers. That's the man she feels compelled to chase. And here's where it gets interesting. Creating space isn't just for her benefit. It's for yours too. It allows you to step back and evaluate the situation with clarity. Is this woman really interested, or are you just forcing something that isn't there? Sometimes silence reveals the truth, that she was never invested to begin with, and you were carrying the weight all on your own. Other times, it shows you that she just needed a reminder that your attention isn't guaranteed. And once she feels that, she naturally begins to put in more effort. Either way, space protects your dignity. It keeps you from overextending yourself and allows her true intentions to surface. The beautiful thing about this approach is that it doesn't require words, arguments, or explanations. You don't need to lecture her about how she never texts first. You don't need to demand more effort or complain that she isn't doing her part. All of that would come across as needy and weak. Instead, you let your actions, or in this case, your lack of action speak louder. You stop over-investing, and the silence does the heavy lifting. If she's truly interested, she'll feel the shift and respond. If she doesn't, then you've saved yourself the wasted energy of chasing someone who was never really there for you. But here's the catch: you have to mean it. You can't just pretend to step back while secretly waiting by the phone, checking every 5 minutes to see if she replied. That energy will still come across as desperate even if you're silent. The key is to genuinely detach, to redirect your focus toward your own life, your goals, your growth. When you're busy living fully, you're not obsessing over whether she texted you first. That authentic detachment is what makes your absence felt even stronger, because she can sense when your silence is real. So if she never calls or texts you first, the move isn't to chase harder. It's to create space. Space is what builds tension. Space is what allows attraction to breathe. Space is what forces her to notice what it feels like without you constantly filling the gaps. And in that space, you reclaim your power. You stop being the man who begs for attention and become the man whose attention is earned. That's how you flip the script without saying a single word. That's how you transform silence into a tool that works for you instead of against you. And that's how you show her without chasing, without pleading, that your presence is valuable and your time is not something to be taken for granted. Because in the end, if she never calls or texts you first, the most attractive thing you can do is simply not chase. Step back, create space, and let her feel the silence. That's when she realizes what she stands to lose. When a woman never calls or texts you first, it's easy to fall into a spiral of overthinking. You start wondering what's wrong with you, why she doesn't seem interested, or whether you're doing something wrong in the way you communicate. But the truth is, the more you obsess over her lack of effort, the more power you hand over to her. And the more power you give away, the weaker you look in her eyes. Instead of asking why she isn't reaching out, the real question you should be asking is, what can I be doing with this time and energy to build myself into a stronger, more attractive version of me? Because here's the secret: when you shift your focus away from her and back onto yourself, you immediately start to transform the dynamic. Women are drawn to men who live in abundance, who radiate confidence, and who have lives that are full and exciting with or without female attention. When you obsess over her texting habits, you're showing that you have nothing better to focus on. That makes you predictable, needy, and uninspiring. But when you redirect all that attention toward your goals, your health, your style, your social circle, and your personal growth, something powerful happens. Not only do you feel better about yourself, but she also senses that energy shift, and suddenly you're no longer the man chasing her. You're the man she wants to chase. This is why focusing on yourself isn't just advice. It's a strategy. Think about your purpose first. Every man has something he's meant to build, chase, or create. Maybe it's your career, your business, your craft, or your passion. When a woman sees that you're more focused on your purpose than on her, she respects you differently. She realizes she's dealing with a man who has direction, who's not sitting around waiting for validation, but who's moving forward regardless of her attention. That's the kind of energy that draws her in, because deep down women want to be with men who are going somewhere in life. Men they can admire, men whose presence inspires them. And let's not ignore the physical side. Take that time you would have spent worrying about why she hasn't texted and put it into your fitness. Get stronger, sharper, more disciplined. Not only does working on your body improve your confidence, but it also shows in the way you carry yourself. Women are incredibly perceptive. They notice posture, energy, presence, and how a man looks after himself. By leveling up physically, you send a message without ever needing to say a word. You're a man who values himself. That silent confidence is louder than any desperate text could ever be. Then there's your style. The way you dress, groom, and present yourself is a reflection of how you see yourself. Upgrade your wardrobe, invest in grooming, and refine your image. It's not about vanity, it's about respect for yourself. When you look sharp, you feel sharp, and when you feel sharp, you act sharp. Women notice the smallest details, and when they see a man who pays attention to how he presents himself, it signals status, pride, and self-respect. These things create attraction effortlessly because they separate you from the average man who's too busy chasing to invest in himself. Your social life matters too. Instead of sitting by the phone, build connections, expand your network, spend time with people who elevate you. Go out, laugh, share experiences, and live. When your life is rich with social energy, it makes you magnetic. People are drawn to people who are already surrounded by good vibes, and women especially notice when a man is sought after, respected, and enjoyed by others. A man who has options, who's connected, who's admired in his circle, that's the man who doesn't need to chase anyone. And ironically, that's the man women feel compelled to pursue. But perhaps the most important shift when you focus on yourself is internal. You stop waiting. You stop caring so much about what she does or doesn't do. You begin to carry yourself with a calm assurance, knowing that your life is moving forward regardless. And here's the twist. When you genuinely let go of the obsession, when you stop centering her in your world, she feels it. Women are intuitive. They can sense when a man is emotionally dependent on them, and they can sense when a man is detached, grounded, and fulfilled on his own. And it's always the second type of man who sparks their curiosity and desire. Imagine two men. The first spends his evenings scrolling through his messages, rereading old conversations, drafting texts, deleting them, and wondering why she hasn't replied. The second spends his evenings at the gym working on his craft, planning his future, enjoying time with friends, and pushing himself to new levels. Which man do you think she feels more drawn to? Which man do you think she starts to wonder about when her phone is quiet? The answer is obvious. The man who doesn't need her attention is the one whose attention she eventually wants. This is why you should never let her silence shake you. Instead of seeing her lack of effort as rejection, see it as opportunity, an opportunity to double down on yourself. Let her silence fuel your drive. Let it push you into becoming the man you've always wanted to be. Because once you step into that version of yourself, you'll realize something powerful. Whether she texts you or not won't even matter. You'll be so focused on your own journey that her attention becomes a bonus, not the prize. And that shift in mindset is what makes you irresistible. The moment you stop chasing her and start chasing your best self is the moment everything changes. You take back control. You stop playing the game on her terms and start living life on yours. And if she's truly interested, she'll notice the difference. She'll feel the gap. She'll realize that she's no longer the center of your universe, and that realization is what makes her reach out. But even if she doesn't, you still win because you've elevated yourself into a stronger, sharper, more confident man. And that kind of man never loses. So if she never calls or texts you first, don't waste your energy overthinking it. Redirect that energy into yourself, because the better you become, the less you'll care about who does or doesn't chase you. And ironically, that's exactly when they all start chasing. When a woman never calls or texts you first, the easy trap to fall into is thinking that when you finally do reach out, you have to pour your heart out, send long paragraphs, or explain your feelings in detail. You convince yourself that maybe if you just communicate everything clearly, She'll finally understand how much you care and start matching your energy. But in reality, that approach almost always backfires. It comes across as pressure, as if you're demanding something from her. What actually works is the exact opposite, controlling the frame of communication. That means when you do reach out, you keep it light, confident, and positive. You don't make it heavy, you don't flood her with neediness, and you don't make her feel like you're waiting for her approval. You set the tone, and if she values you, she'll naturally begin to mirror that energy. The reason this is so important is because every interaction carries a frame. A frame is essentially the emotional context that defines how two people communicate. If your frame is one of desperation where you're texting because you're afraid of losing her, she'll feel that immediately. You don't even have to say the words. It's in the energy behind the message, in the way you type, in the frequency of your contact. Women are experts at reading between the lines, but if your frame is calm, lighthearted, confident, and non-attached, then she feels something different. She feels that you're not trying to win her over, you're not desperate for a response. You're simply expressing yourself because you want to. That changes everything. For example, imagine two different messages. The first says, "Hey, why don't you ever text me first? Do you even care? I'm always the one making an effort." Even though that message might be honest, it comes from a frame of weakness. It shows that you're measuring your worth based on her effort, and that instantly lowers your value in her eyes. Now imagine another message, something as simple as, "Hope your day's going well." It's light, it's confident, it doesn't demand anything. It gives her room to respond without feeling cornered. That small difference in tone shifts the frame completely. One comes from need, the other comes from strength. But controlling the frame goes beyond just the words. It's also about timing and consistency. If you're messaging her every day, multiple times a day, you're showing her that your world revolves around her. That creates pressure. But if you reach out occasionally, without overdoing it, and each time you keep the vibe positive, she starts to associate you with light energy rather than heavy expectation. She knows that when you message, it's not going to turn into a draining conversation. That makes her more willing to engage. Another key part of controlling the frame is not overinvesting emotionally in her replies. If she responds quickly, great. If she takes hours or even days, that's fine too. You don't show frustration, you don't double text, you don't lecture her about her response time. Because the second you start reacting to her behavior with emotional swings, you lose control of the frame. You're signaling that she has the power to control how you feel. But when you remain steady regardless of how she responds, you send the message that you're centered, and that your happiness doesn't depend on her. That stability is extremely attractive, because it shows you're a man who can handle himself emotionally. The way you speak also matters. Keep your communication playful, teasing when appropriate, and always rooted in positive energy. Avoid making every conversation a checklist of what are you doing or where have you been. Instead, add value with humor, curiosity, or a story. Women are emotional creatures. They're not drawn to men who are heavy and serious all the time. They're drawn to men who make them feel something. When you control the frame, you're not trying to extract validation from her. You're giving her a reason to enjoy interacting with you. That difference is massive, and here's something most men never realize. By controlling the frame, you actually give her permission to invest back into you. If she never calls or texts first, it's often because she doesn't feel safe to do so. She might think you'll come across as too eager or that you'll misinterpret her effort. But when she sees that your communication is light and balanced, when she sees that you don't crumble if she doesn't reply right away, she begins to relax. That's when she starts initiating more, because she feels she can engage without it turning into a heavy obligation. It's also important to understand that women mirror energy. If your messages are filled with worry, frustration, or sadness, she'll reflect that back. But if your messages are grounded, fun, and light, she'll start to reflect that instead. That's why it's not just about what you say, but about the energy behind it. Control the frame by controlling yourself first. Be grounded, be calm, be present. If you're living a fulfilling life, your communication will naturally reflect that, and she'll feel it. Another benefit of controlling the frame is that it keeps you in a position of power. Instead of reacting to her, you're leading the interaction. You're showing her that you set the pace, you set the vibe, and you're not shaken by her lack of effort. That quiet leadership is magnetic. It tells her that you're not just another guy trying to win her approval. You're a man who moves through life with confidence, and she has the opportunity to join in if she wants. That subtle difference is what separates men who chase endlessly from men who are effortlessly pursued. Now, let's be real. Sometimes no matter how light and confident your communication is, she still won't match your effort. That's where the earlier points tie in. You step back, you focus on yourself, and you never overextend. Controlling the frame doesn't mean endlessly giving your energy. It means setting a standard. You show her how you operate, and if she doesn't match that, you let her go. But until you see the truth, your job is to maintain your frame and never drop into weakness. So when she never calls or texts first, don't let frustration push you into needy messages or emotional rants. Instead, control the frame. Keep your communication light, confident, and positive. Show her through your tone and your energy that you're not chasing her validation. You're simply inviting her into your world. If she values you, she'll eventually rise to meet that standard. And if she doesn't, you still come out stronger, because you never sacrificed your dignity just to get her attention. That's how you stay in control. That's how you build attraction without forcing it. And that's how you turn silence into an opportunity instead of a weakness. When a woman never calls or texts you first, the biggest mistake you can make is giving her endless access to your time, your energy, and your attention. Most men think that by constantly being available, by always reaching out, and by showing unlimited patience, they'll eventually win her over. But the truth is, the more freely you give without requiring any effort from her, the less she values what you offer. Human nature doesn't work in a way where something that's too easy is deeply appreciated. What's earned is cherished, and what's handed out for free is often ignored. That's why, if she never initiates, you need to stop giving her the privilege of your energy without her earning it. Letting her earn your attention doesn't mean playing games or acting cold. It's about respecting yourself enough to set standards. A man who values himself doesn't tolerate being treated as an option. He understands that his time and presence are valuable, and that anyone who wants access to him must show that they're willing to contribute. This doesn't mean demanding constant validation from her, but it does mean matching her effort. If she's giving nothing, you don't keep pouring everything. If she's not showing consistency, you don't keep rewarding inconsistency. You become the mirror that reflects her level of investment. This shift is powerful because it changes the dynamic instantly. Instead of you being the man who's always chasing her approval, you become the man who requires effort in order to engage with you. That difference alone creates respect. Women are naturally drawn to men who have boundaries because boundaries communicate strength. A man with no boundaries communicates desperation, and desperation is the fastest way to kill attraction. Think about it. When you give your full attention to someone who gives you little to nothing, you're showing her that you don't see yourself as valuable. You're teaching her that she doesn't need to try, that she can sit back and still have your effort. But when you flip the script and let her feel that your attention is conditional based on respect and effort, she starts to think differently. She realizes that if she doesn't step up, she could lose you. And that fear of loss is one of the strongest motivators in human behavior. You have to remember that attention is a currency. Spend it wisely. Every time you text first, call first, and do all the work, you're investing your currency. If she never invests back, then the exchange is unbalanced, and you're depleting your own value. But when you hold back, when you only give to those who give in return, your attention becomes scarce. Scarcity creates value, and value creates desire. Suddenly, your messages carry more weight, your presence feels more important, and your absence feels noticeable. Letting her earn your attention also means you stop tolerating low-effort behavior. If she replies with one-word answers, don't reward it by forcing the conversation forward. If she cancels plans without rescheduling, don't rush to give her another opportunity. If she never initiates, stop rewarding her with constant initiation. You don't have to punish her. You don't have to argue. You simply show through your actions that you're not a man who begs for attention. You're a man whose attention is earned. And here's the beauty of it. When you start living with this standard, women respect you more. Even the ones who never put in effort before begin to adjust, because they sense that you're not like other men. Most guys will keep chasing no matter how poorly they're treated. But the rare man who withdraws his attention until it's earned is the man who stands out. That's the man she thinks about when the phone is silent. That's the man she realizes she could lose if she doesn't step up. So if she never calls or texts you first, the answer isn't to do more. It's to do less, but with more intention. Make her earn your attention because your time and energy are valuable. Don't give them away to someone who doesn't appreciate them. By holding yourself to that standard, you show her and yourself that you're a man worth chasing.